Today, if you're just tuning in, we're hanging out with Ron Purtee. He is a filmmaker and host of his own. Tell us about your channel, Ron. You've
It's
got a channel
I
on
do
YouTube.
here on the Twitch and on the YouTube. I have a lot of interviews, and Greg has so kindly agreed to be a guest coming up, so that's fun. He's a busy man. Quarantine's made him even busier. Are you familiar with the X-Men?
I am familiar with the X-Men.
Apparently, from what we're gathering here, Greg Benson is Jamie Madrox, the Multiple Man.
He is Multiple Man. He is
There you
indeed.
go. And it's funny how small of a world this is, because when he showed Cherry 2000 on Bad Movies Live, it rekindled my desire to remake that movie. Like for years, I've wanted to get the rights to remake Cherry 2000.
Interesting. I vaguely remember that movie from the 80s.
My grandparents, and this is another reason why I love movies, is they would tape the long play on the VHS tapes, and they would tape movies from
Yes,
HBO
6 hours.
for me. Yes, they would tape movies from HBO for me. And I remember I wore out my Indiana Jones tape, and I would always skip past Temple of Doom. I couldn't do Temple of Doom. There's just something about that movie that bugs me. I don't know.
I was just talking about that, how I would always I'm like, Temple of Doom? I don't know. It never sat right.
If I was to rank all the Indiana Jones movies, it would go Last Crusade, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then Temple of Doom, because there hasn't been a fourth movie.
Absolutely correct. I'm glad that you omitted that fourth movie.
You want to hate Shia LaBeouf, but he's not bad in the movie.
Yeah.
The story is garbage.
That's a really great topic of a show, too. Maybe we should talk about actors, guys and gals actors that you don't like, but they're not that bad. Like Kristen Stewart is she's gotten pretty good. And I'm just kind of like, but I don't know.
She wasn't good in the Twilight movies, but then neither was Robert Pattinson, and he's an amazing actor. If you've seen Good Time, or I can't wait to see him in
Dynamite, Good Times? Of course I've seen Good Times.
Like there's a list of 5 movies that made me want to make movies, and that was one of them. That and the original Dawn of the Dead. I mean, how does that go in hand? It doesn't make any sense, but what was another one? And Superman the movie.
I'm a stickler for referring to Superman the movie, because I'm always like, it's Superman the movie, just like Star Trek the motion picture.
I'm one of those people who is a huge apologist for Part 3 with Richard Pryor and Robert Vaughn, I think, was in it. Is that who it was? I forget. And the sequence when he's fighting himself in the dump is amazing.
It's an amazing sequence, and it is. Superman turns bad. He's got his suit is soiled. It has a lot of redeeming factors.
Part 4, I mean, the message is good, but I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's Nuclear Man. I mean, who cares about Nuclear Man?
I saw Part 4. I watched Part 4 about 3 times in one day. I was home from school sick, and I was watching the VHS, and I watched it first thing in the morning when I was getting up. I was laying on the couch all sick, and I'm like, this is bad. This is a bad movie. I'm very young. But let me
watch it a couple more times.
Let me watch it again. Let me start it over from the beginning. It never got better.
Never does. The message is great. And what he says when he's like, look, if you guys want peace, you got to bring it about yourself. I can't do it for you. Which is a very valid thing to say. And I'm a big Superman fan, like the comics and stuff. Yeah, but there's a new Boys title out, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know if you watched the Amazon show.
I've got to start the Amazon show. I know that season 2 out?
Season 2 comes out in September. It is a bloodbath.
I do get queasy.
There's one character that constantly gets covered in blood head to toe. And it's just he doesn't want it. It just kind of happens to him. Simon Pegg was originally supposed to be in the TV show because one of the characters in the comic looks exactly like him. Now he's too old to do it, so he's playing that character's dad. So you get to hear Simon Pegg with an American accent. They announced that Simon Pegg and Jamie Lee Curtis are going to be in this season of Archer.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis. She was amazing in Knives Out.
When you were talking to, I forget his name, Travis, about board games?
Travis.
Yes. I don't know if you saw my comment in the chat. It was, they turned chess into a movie, and it's called Knives Out. I mean, think about it.
Interesting.
That is a chess game. I'm actually writing a one-man show that I'm filming in my house to put up. Yeah, so it's called I'm Not My Fault.
Now, give us a brief synopsis. Give us
it's going to be a bunch of characters that I do. I do an old woman character named Helen. I literally put on my mom's house coat and a wig, but I wait until I have.
And you film this.
And I do. Yeah, there's videos on YouTube. I wait till I have a bunch of growth on the face, though, so it looks even worse. But then there's going to be stories about my life which are ridiculous, like how I won a contest called Milwaukee's Most Pathetic Man, but the joke's on them. I don't even live in Milwaukee. I loved doing stand-up, and the only problem is by day, I take care of my disabled mom. So it's hard to go out and do stand-up unless it's an open mic or whatever. So I kind of took to just doing funny sketches on YouTube and then making movies and doing the show and stuff. When the Ron Purtee show comes back August 6th, it's going to be here on Twitch, but there's also going to be a separate show where I do interviews with people, because the show I'm going to be doing on Thursday nights is very not normal. I pride myself in my interviews. I'm really good at it, and I'm not just tooting my own horn, toot toot, but I want to separate the two. So I'm going to be, and I have some great guests coming up on that too. Don't say anything, anybody, but
yeah, don't nobody say this.
Yeah, Trace and Frank from MST3K are coming on to promote their show coming up on August 18th.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's very exciting. When did you start making your own movies? Like
July 10th, 2010.
Now tell us about that experience.
It was a pain in the ass, to be honest, because I'd never done it before, and
it's herding cats.
It is. It really is. And there was a sequence where there was a bunch of zombies.
You're like, making movies is already herding cats. Let's get a bunch of zombies.
Everybody wanted to know how to walk, and I'm like, just do what you want, because if you do what I tell you to do, every zombie's gonna look alike, and not every zombie is alike. We shot it in my dad's garage, and he was like, just clean up all the blood afterwards. I'm like, okay. So the funny thing is,
get rid of the evidence.
Yeah, the thing that's amazing about that is we cleaned up all the fake blood, but there was real blood from the shoot, because the DP was putting a tarp up so we'd block off everything in the garage. And when he did it, he kind of like got his hand caught with a nail with a hammer, and so he bled out. And there's blood, and to this day there's probably still blood in the garage. And he's like, "Oh, what's this fake blood?" Yep, it's fake. And what's funny is when we shot the sequel, we shot it at his new house that he has with his third wife. And again, we forgot to clean off some blood, because there's a sequence where there's blood on the sliding glass door, and there's a big bloody handprint on there, and we completely forgot to clean it off. So when my stepmother comes down and opens the blinds to let the sun in, she's greeted by a giant bloody handprint. We shot something else in the front yard of his old house. We actually had to call the police department and tell them what we were doing, because at one point in the movie, the clown chops up a woman in the front yard. Yeah. And they brought a cop out to sit and watch, and that way if anybody called in, they could say, "No, we know this is nothing, don't worry about it." And one of the funny sequences in that movie is when he's hacking her up, he forgot to take the horn out of his pocket. So every time he brings the axe down, it goes, honk, honk, honk. Darkest comedy ever.
What are some of your favorite films in recent years?
True Romance. I'm a big fan of that movie.
Oh, I love that movie.
That is as close to a perfect film as you can get.
I love True Romance. It might be my favorite Gary Oldman performance, in that if you ever notice about Gary Oldman, he is always using a different accent no matter what the role. He will always, if he plays a character from Chicago, he'll have a very specific area of Chicago that he'll emulate in his accents. I kind of noticed that about him, and it's remarkable. And when he plays that dude in True Romance, I'm just like, how the heck is this the same guy who played Winston Churchill? My
favorite line in True Romance is when Christian Slater shows up at Gary Oldman's establishment, and he's like, "What is this, white boy day?" I'm like, that. I just die every time I hear him deliver that line.
I think this should be the last little bit of the show, because I would be remiss, because you mentioned your fandom for Superman. Zack Snyder is doing the Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and there's been some footage released of Superman
in his black
suit. Yeah. Now, okay. I want your thoughts on this.
Oh, you're going to get them, because you said the magic words that pissed me off. One's Eli Roth, because I do not like Eli Roth. I find him, yeah. And then Zack Snyder is the other. Let's get into Superman for a second. Zack Snyder hates that character. Henry Cavill is fine as Superman. I have no problems with him.
I like him as Superman, yeah.
A lot of people are going to disagree with me. The only time Superman was right in any of these movies is when Joss Whedon took over.
Right, when he shows up to fight Steppenwolf in Justice League. It's just from that point on, and maybe just the intro where they have the little cell phone footage of Superman. Those were the only Supermans that I've seen in the last 10 years. That was the only representation
Exactly.
accurate. I totally agree with you about Zack Snyder not liking the character. I was watching part of his interview from the panel on Comic-Con or the Zoom chat he was having, and I was like thinking, this is great. Zack finally gets to realize his vision. Good for him. I'm so glad that he gets to kind of work on this now and bring it to fruition the way that he envisioned it. And then he starts talking about the character Superman. He was just like, and I don't want him to be like that Boy Scout. I'm like, Zach, that's who Superman is. He's like literally the Ubermensch. He is the guy who is the Boy Scout. Because if you have the Boy Scout, then when you have Batman, who is the dude who will do what he needs to be done, but you've got the the beacon of light that is Superman.
You can't have light without the dark.
Thank you, Ron, for joining me today on Aristotle Full Throttle. You guys can follow Ron at Real Ron Purtee. He's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, he's on Twitter. We loved nerding it up with you today and talking about movies and talking about your life growing up in Wisconsin. Ron, you're the best. Don't go changing.
I might change my shirt. I'm sweating a little bit, but I won't change who I am.
I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro in the know with the fro, and I'll see you tomorrow.